Alright, kindergarten friends, so today we are going to be moving on with the next steps of our pattern sea turtle project. And today we are going to be working on the background that our sea turtle is going to be glued into. And what we're going to do is basically make this white piece of paper look like an ocean. So when we're thinking about the ocean, we're going to be using a lot of cool colors. Cool colors are blue, purple, green. And we're also going to be using a little bit of white if you want to as well, because a lot of times in our waves we're going to have some white highlights. So when we begin our ocean, we're going to be adding some lines into our page to just add some interest and add some visual texture. So I'm going to start with my blue, and I'm going to make all of my waves go the same direction. So for me, I'm going to put my curvy lines going vertically, kind of like this. And there's no real rhyme or reason. We're just going to add some lines. Some can be short and some can be long. Then I'm going to move on to another cool color. So I'm going to add a little bit of green. Just a few little curves and squiggles here and there. I'm going to add some purple. And notice how my lines are not overlapping. Each one has its own space in my artwork. So I'm not putting them right on top of each other. I'm not scribbling. I'm just trying to add some texture to my page. And then the last one I'm going to do is white. Now, you're probably not going to see the white on our white paper until it is painted in just a few minutes. So I'm just adding few white curves here and there. Like that. Now that we are done with our oil pastel, we are going to collect our oil pastels. So I'm going to go ahead and put all my pastels back into my bag. And then after we put our bag of oil pastels away, we are going to use some watercolor. We're going to paint over the top to make our sea. So let me go grab my watercolors really quickly. I'm going to pause my video and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm back with my watercolor paints and I am ready to start. So when we are painting, again, this is our blue water, so the majority of our paint should be blue. So I'm going to start with my wet paintbrush. I'm going to get my extra drips off just by touching the inside of my cup, and then I'm gently getting a little bit of paint on my paintbrush. And when I paint, I go back and forth in short, straight lines. Get my drips off, get a little more paint, and we paint right over the top of our oil pastels. The oil pastels are made of oil, and so they resist the paint, and the paint does not stick to the oil pastel, so that makes it so that they still show through. And you can see how my white oil pastel begins to show up when I paint over it. We couldn't see that before, but once the paint is on there, we can. I'm just going back and forth. When my paintbrush gets dry, I get a little more water, get the drips off, a little more paint, and then back and forth, never around in circle with our paintbrush. More water, get the drips off, more paint, just like this. Get the drips off, a little more paint. Just like this. Now that my blue is all done, I can make it a little bit more special by adding just a little tiny bit of purple here and there. And that just makes our water have a little bit more of some color to it and a little bit more interest for us to see. Gives our eyes something else to look at when we're looking at this painting. We don't want to have a purple ocean, but it doesn't hurt to have just a little bit of purple here and there in our artwork. So when we are done painting, we're going to put this in the drying rack and let it dry. And then next time we are going to move on and get our turtle back. We're going to cut him out, glue him down, and then that will be it for this project. So today we are starting with our curvy watercolor oil pastel lines, and then trading our oil pastels for a watercolor paint tray, and then we will paint with the blue and maybe just a tiny little bit of purple.